Hi, I'm poet and writer Kay Spivey, and today I'm going to be doing a reaction video to BTS's Black Swan. Now, I have already seen this music video. However, I have been really into watching reaction videos lately. Like, I'm having a lot of fun watching other people enjoy BTS for the first time. If I'd have thought of this like 2 months ago, I could have joined in on the train, but I have literally watched everything I can find already, so there's no new reactions. However, when it comes to Black Swan, something I was really surprised about was watching all of these people who had no background information on what like the Black Swan is and coming up with these concepts where it was just like I guess it could work, but like the Black Swan is already like a concept that I thought was really well known. So I want to talk about that. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a dancer, but I have some background and I know about the Black Swan, so I want to talk to you about it. Now, my grandma was a dancer. My grandma was a ballerina, and she taught ballet for a large portion of her life. So when I was really little, I did take ballet for like a short time. Honestly, I quit ballet for the same reason that I quit volleyball, which is that I just was not competitive enough in that field. Like, I was hanging out with all these girls. For volleyball, it was all these girls who wanted to like get into college on volleyball scholarships, and I just wanted to have fun and play. And with ballet, it was girls who wanted to grow up to be prima ballerinas, who wanted to get into the dance numbers, and I just wanted to dance. So I didn't do ballet for very long, but it was my grandma's whole life. And so I had a lot of exposure really young. I don't know if I've ever said, like, when I was really little, my favorite, it was a tape. My favorite tape recording to listen to was the Phantom of the Opera, the original recording of Phantom of the Opera. And my second favorite was Tchaikovsky. For a child, I was huge into Tchaikovsky. And of course, what is Tchaikovsky known for? Swan Lake. Honestly, there's two ballets that everybody knows. If you ask someone to name two ballets, they're gonna name two, and they're both by Tchaikovsky: The Nutcracker and Swan Lake. And Swan Lake is the pivotal one when it comes to the Black Swan story. If you've seen like the cartoon version, or you've seen the movie Black Swan with Natalie Portman, you know the basic concept. Like the cartoon, for how much it changes it up and is like very much a cartoon, it follows the basic premise of Swan Lake pretty closely. If you've seen that, it's pretty similar. Obviously a few changes, and they give her happily ever after, which is not really the case in Swan Lake. And in the Black Swan, of course, they really go into the like thriller aspect of it. So they change a few things. But the basic concept is princess turned into a swan by a sorcerer, and then she gets a chance through the power of true love to get changed back into her real form. However, the sorcerer sends a double, which is often played by the same ballerina on the stage, but sometimes it's two different ballerinas. I guess that's a more modern concept for it, is to have two different ballerinas. But the idea is he sends a duplicate of her, and the prince is fooled, and he declares his love for the wrong girl, which in some versions causes Odette, the Swan Princess, to die, and in some versions she chooses death rather than to continue living as a swan because she's lost her chance to become human again. And in many of the versions he chooses to die with her. Some of the versions, I guess, they try and give them happy endings, and in some of the versions I guess they just have her die, or I guess there's probably versions out there where she chooses to live as a swan. There are infinite takes, but it all comes from the score written by Tchaikovsky. But the idea of the Black Swan then is basically this catalyst of her death, this duplicate of her that was so close that the prince, her love, couldn't even tell her apart from this swan. And so then the concept of the Black Swan is really like this concept of this catalyst of death, this concept of like this dual personality, and people use it in a lot of interesting ways. I think in the thriller, the Natalie Portman thriller, they really use it as like she breaks from reality trying to like create this other self of herself. Does that make sense? The other thing that this music video really goes into is Martha Graham, and there's a whole art film that came out. And even if you had never seen the art film, which I only watched the art film recently, I didn't realize it was by the same company, even though it's on the same YouTube channel. Anyway, Hybe put out an art film by a different group of dancers that really like overtly is like, hey, this is all inspired by Martha Graham. But Martha Graham, if you don't know, and we know that because of the quote at the beginning, where it's one of her famous quotes, and it's what the music video is really focused on. A dancer dies 2 deaths. The first one is when they stop dancing, and that one is the more painful death. That's what the Black Swan is really like focused in on, is that idea that like dying two deaths, and the first death is really when you abandon the thing that you love, or when you can't proceed with the thing that you love. Like, oh, in my grandma's case, her first death was when she injured herself and could no longer perform ballet, and she went on to then teach ballet, but she was never the same. She had always envisioned herself as a dancer. And so Martha Graham is really important, and she's someone who is so important that for sure, for 100% sure, Jimin studied her at his art school. Like, he went to school for contemporary dance. Martha Graham really revolutionized modern dance. And I'm not an expert in her. I think someone who has studied dance probably knows a lot better. I only know her kind of the footnotes version, which is what you're getting from me. If you're interested in kind of the history of dance, Martha Graham really changed modern dance, contemporary dance. She is the mother of it, essentially. And she has a lot of amazing quotes, and a lot of people were highly influenced by her, but Jimin for sure knows who she is, for sure was influenced by her work, and for sure loves her style, because that is more of the style that they're dancing. So in ballet, the idea is to be very ethereal. Ballerinas have to float. Ballerinas have to almost look like these ethereal creatures, that there's no like contact with the earth. It's very much such an art form. It's such a like detachment from the regular human self, that you are this other being. And so especially if you become the swan, you're a bird now. You're flying, you're floating. Martha Graham's style though is very much to connect into the emotions. So her idea, I believe the concept she really worked everything around was that every single movement should portray the emotion. And so like digging deep into like visceral emotion of every single movement, which we see in Jimin a lot. And actually we see it really well. Let's just really quick before we go into Black Swan, let's watch his performance, his solo for I Need You, and you'll see what I mean. So Jimin loves her style. He is very much into this deep, emotional, connected dance style that is like a cousin to ballet. Oh, look at that. But just like the power and the raw emotion in all of his movements. I mean, that's the real thing in contemporary, is that you're telling a story through like the passion of your body. And there is some of that in ballet, but again, there's like this disconnect. Gorgeous. That one also, he's barefoot. And that is another thing that seems to be like very much a Martha Graham style that she really started. In most other classical dance forms, there's some type of a shoe. So in ballet, obviously there's the ballet shoe, the pointe shoe. In ballroom dance styles, there's a type of shoe that is necessary for the style. And the contemporary style is one of the few where, partly because of the style of the movements, slipping would be absolutely catastrophic. You could hurt yourself if you slipped on the floor, but also like that grounding into the earth, very minimal clothing. When you see things where it's like just somebody in a leotard, a lot of times they're doing a contemporary style dance. The power of the emotions is so necessary to the style of dance. And it all comes from Martha Graham. Apparently she really revolutionized this, made it popular. So we know Black Swan is really focused on that concept of dance and this concept of losing sight of yourself. Black Swan also comes from the Map of the Soul series, which of course comes from Carl Jung's theory of the map of the soul. And if you go into like the idea of the shadows are really important in the music video. And a persona is really important in the music video. This idea of persona is also tied in with the Black Swan. Like, this is such a perfect catalyst for the whole Map of the Soul album. And I believe it was the first music video they put out for that album too, wasn't it? So it is like intended to be the catalyst. But this idea of this duality of personality, that like, here's the white swan mistaken for this black swan, causing the death of the white swan, you know, like this imposter, this doppelganger. but oftentimes it is played by the same dancer. And in the music video, they are both the white and the black swan, and they're talking about this need for music, this need for dance, this need to stay alive through their art. Talked enough, I think. Mostly I just wanted to really talk about, like, this comes from ballet. This doesn't come from just like nowhere, and it doesn't necessarily come from just the film, although I know the film was definitely, the thriller film with Natalie Portman was also an influence for sure. But like, they're dancing in this old theater. I believe it's the LA theater, the Los Angeles theater. It's an old classic theater, beautiful, decadent. And when you think about like performance, especially like ballet performance, that kind of old musty stage, like there's so much ambiance there. And it's so important to telling the story of the dancer, the performer. So yeah, we'll just get into it. We will start watching right now. And I put on the subtitles as well, because I enjoy the subtitles quite a bit. Okay, and you see bare feet on the theater floor. And I think someone I had watched was talking about how like the shadows on the floor is very, one of the filmmakers I watched, and they mentioned like the floor being wet. That's just a polished theater floor. Like, you've been on a theater stage before, right? Like, they gotta polish it down. It just looks like that. They probably didn't do much work to the stage other than clean it. And of course the shadows. Of course, everyone does talk about the shadows are so great in this, which tie into the Carl Jung theory, but also the idea that the black swan is always right there behind you. Oh, I love this dance. I love that theater. Can we just talk about this gorgeous theater? Like, obviously that's why it was chosen. I'm a sucker for architecture, but like that ornate banister there, like, geez, I love this. This theater is so beautiful. What a great, I mean, they even, I think, talk about it in their behind the scenes that like is a good choice. It helps, it brings the atmosphere. It's just gorgeous. And I love that Jimin, actually all of them have a little aspect of the black, so they're not just pure white swans, but when they're the black swan, it's purely the black swan. It's clever. There's always that piece, that dark side is always there. That doppelganger is always lingering with you. Can we just for a moment, I'm gonna pause and just talk about like, who's the genius? Is it them? Did they just decide this on their own? Is it just because their voices work so well together, or like the songs just demand it? Like every time it's like the J-Hope to Suga transition in so many videos, and I love it every time. It's my favorite thing. The two of them just like as a unit is like such a thing in all of the songs and all of the videos. It just constantly happens, and like, is it just because they sound good, or is this like, it's just a thing? It works every time. I love it. That's my favorite thing, actually. I wish this could have been my first reaction, because that moment where he like turns him into like the finger, I was like, wow. Let's do it again. I'm gonna back it up just a bit. They're so good facing each other, you know? Soap. We stand soap. I love the corsets. More corsets, please. Love them. Ooh, the chills. This was one of my first impressions of Jimin, is this like power dancing down the line. I think he does a similar thing in Fake Love, but Dang. It's so much Jimin's song, and it's such a like tribute to his style. So much of their dancing is very much more J-Hope style, more of the hip-hop style. They don't get, I mean, I think this is the first time they really got to get into that more, into the contemporary. I think this was really the first one, although they have a little bit of like the ballet themes going on in Fake Love, like that whole, the marionette dance that comes from a ballet. Usually they're going much more in a hip-hop direction, even more than like a K-pop direction. Like there's a K-pop style of dance and they do that a lot, but they really do like a very hip-hop. And to get to do the more fluid movements that you know that Jimin likes better is really nice. It's nice to see. Like, I love J-Hope so much, but Jimin, when he gets to be in his element, really does shine. Okay. Oh, look at that. All the lighting in this is so stunning. But I also love the like drawn out solo shots. Oh, and then being those notes. So good. Oh, yes, I always forget. Goodbye, Jimin. Bowing out. And JK leaving the stage. Of course. I would love to hear the perspective of someone who like is currently studying dance or who has studied dance, who even has more perspective on this. I just found it so funny that all of these people will talk about this video and like so many people just don't know like how. I just thought Swan Lake was such a like universal concept, and clearly it's not. Clearly this is just I have a particular past interest as a child, an obsession with Tchaikovsky of all things. Even without having seen the art film before, like I had enough background in the Black Swan. When I watched it, I was like, oh, it's about Swan Lake. It's about the Black Swan. It's about this concept of duality and this loss, this like extreme loss, because she loses her life at the end. And yeah, I think it's just such a beautiful video. Like their videos are so artistic, and that one is really like high concept, beautiful, artistic. It's so stunning, and I just really wanted to do sort of a reaction. Like I do watch this video once a week, let's be honest. I really like Black Swan quite a bit. Knowing that they're definitely aware of all of that, I just felt like I needed to put a video out talking about it and pointing it out, because there's just so many people who don't seem to know that is definitely what's going on here. And I'm sure like we could go into this, probably ties into the BTS universe as well. I mean, it definitely does. Most of their videos do link together, but that this is just such a tribute video, such a strong tribute to the world of dance, and especially to Martha Graham, and to that idea of that dance is so important to the dancer, that losing the ability or losing the stage for it would be like a first death, and that it would be more painful than actually dying to a dancer. And I mean, that's such a artistic concept. It's lovely. But anyway, that's all from me today. If you like these kind of reaction videos, let me know, because I certainly like reacting to things. Obviously, I'm only going to react to videos that I want to, because this is mostly a writing and reading channel, but I like talking about some other things that I'm interested in, like the fact that this has a ballet concept, and there is some ballet in my background, and I just really wanted to talk about it. I like talking about things that I really enjoy, and obviously right now with BTS, but also I really like theater and I really like dance. My Patreon is linked down below as well if you want to support me, as well as all my social media is all linked as well. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if you have any other insight into Black Swan or any other insight into contemporary dance. I would love to hear about it. Thank you so much, and good luck to you, and good luck to all of us. Bye!